Hey guys, it's Mandles, and I'm bringing you, yet again, more Top 10 Shenanigans. If you caught my last video, you'll find that I talked rather negatively about the adorable creatures known as Pokemon. Well, you can turn that frown upside down, because instead of disappointing Pokemon being this video's topic, we're gonna talk about satisfying Pokemon, I guess? Well, you know, those Pokemon that make you go, oh, instead of, oh. These are the Pokemon that didn't seem like much when we first laid eyes on them, but eventually proved to be unexpectedly useful. As always, this list derives entirely from my opinion, so if you disagree with it, I ask that you hold your gunfire until the end of the video. Thanks. Number 10, Flabébé. Pardon my French. This little dude was announced during that time when X and Y Korokoro leaks were popping out left and right. And since Flabébe's leak told us little to nothing about the Pokemon, we were left to make assumptions to our heart's content. My assumption was that this was the end of Flabébe's evolution line, or he had no further evolutions. That shouldn't come as a surprise, because Game Freak has done this sort of thing a number of times before, leaving a small, insignificant Pokemon to never evolve once. I was wrong though. Flabébé got not only one, but two evolutions. Florges, Flabébe's final evolution, was one of my preferred Pokemon to use when I was building my first Generation 6 team, since its special defense was so high. Furthermore, Floette even played a major role in X and Y's story. It may not look like much, but beneath Flabébe's cutesy appearance lays an ultimate power. Flower power. Oh yeah. Number 9, Smeargle. So, Smeargle is an artist. He paints things. What's so great about that? I think most of us found ourselves asking that question. I mean, he's pretty dull to look at, and the only feature of his that really sticks out is the glob of green goop that's trickling down his tail. Other than that, he looks like your typical, normal-type beastie. However, Smeargle's artistic abilities give him spectacular powers. For you see, his signature move, Sketch, can be used to mimic any attack. Well, any with the exception of Struggle and Chatter, but those are useless anyways. All Smeargle has to do is wave his magic paintbrush and any attack he wants is his for the taking. Forever! At first this may not seem too special since his less than average stats make moves such as Thunderbolt and Psychic unusable, but there are a handful of status moves such as Spore and Sticky Web that make him actually quite awesome competitively. Oh, and if all that wasn't brutal enough for you, I should also mention that Shiny Smeargle doesn't have paint on its tail. That's actually the blood of his fallen foes. Number 8, Clefable. Up until Generation 6, this Pokemon was just something cute to look at, but didn't serve much competitive use. In the past, Clefairy and Clefable were just a couple of dough balls that waggled their fingers, which occasionally caused them to shoot laser beams and fireballs. Okay, that's actually pretty cool, but nevertheless, they were still pretty awful. Well, someone at Game Freak didn't like that and said, boom, Fairy type, boom, Magikarp and Unaware. And thus, this OU tier beast was born. EV training this guy's HP, accompanied by the moves Calm Mind and Soft Boiled, makes for quite a tank. Furthermore, if you throw in moves such as Fire Blast and Stab Moonblast into the mix, Clefable becomes offensive as well as defensive. Furthermore, Magikarp blocks a ton of competitively used stuff such as all those entry hazards, status attacks, and weather damage. Sure, Clefable used to waggle his finger, but now, he just gives the finger. Number 7, Honedge. So, one might assume that a Pokemon based on a freaking sword would cause anyone that laid eyes upon it to assume that it's all-powerful and capable of destroying everything. Well, oddly enough, this isn't quite what I thought. When this Pokemon first leaked, I didn't know what to think. It looked like a hold item, not a living, breathing thing. Even after thoroughly inspecting it, I came to the wrong conclusion that Honedge was going to be a below-average Pokemon. Part of my hypothesis was backed by the fact that Steel's resistances were nerfed, exposing Honedge to many types that he would have been previously resistant to. Honedge also looked like he wouldn't ever evolve, at least through my eyes anyway. But he did. Twice. Aegislash, and I was now kicking myself for saying disrespectful things about the sword. Aegislash is ridiculously strong, mostly thanks to his ability Stance Change, which allows him to protect himself or unleash powerful attacks whenever he wants. The one thing that finally gave him my seal of redemption, though, is the sweep he performed on Diantha on my first try in X and Y. Yep, I swept the champion. No Pokemon should be allowed to do that. Number 6, Beldum. Surely there's nothing spectacular about this guy. I mean, appearance-wise, the extent of his awesomeness is he looks like a floating Cyclops sex toy. Also, if you conduct a little bit of research for Beldum, you'll find that he can only learn one move, Takedown, which is usable, sure, but not in the metagame. You first obtain Beldum in Generation 3 upon beating the Elite Four and receiving him from Champion Steven, who has conveniently left the Pokemon on his home desk for you. Beldum didn't wow me whatsoever, even when I evolved him into Metang, because to my dismay, I overleveled him just a tad and missed out on the many attacks he learns at level 20. I considered many times giving up training Beldum, but eventually I did take down my way to a Metagross, a crazy powerful Pokemon that has obtained OU recognition, as well as being a League Champion's signature Pokemon. Oh, and as if he wasn't already overpowered enough, he now has a Mega Evolution. God help us. Remember how Marill was just Game Freak's way of giving us a Generation 2 version of Pikachu? Well, that was quickly laughed at, and the Pokemon as well as its evolution were never really sought after for competitive use from that point forward. Fair enough, I mean, there's nothing eye-poppingly shocking about these stats. That is, of course, until Generation 5, because then Azumarill was given huge power. Let me explain. What huge power does is double the Pokemon's attack. In order for this epic ability to not be effective, the user would have to have a horrible base attack, which Azumarill does not. Its attack is somewhat decent to begin with, so throwing in huge power just complements Azumarill even more in the best way possible. And yes, an awful move pool could potentially ruin huge power, but Azumarill can learn Superpower, Aqua Jet, Play Rough, etc. Finally, Azumarill is a Fairy type now, giving him huge Fairy power! Number 4, Fletchling. Oh great! Another boring flying type that you can catch at the very beginning of every single Pokemon game. Real original, Game Freak. Actually, contrary to that ignorant belief of mine, Fletchling is very original, though it didn't seem that way at first. His normal flying type scheme is nothing that we haven't seen before, but it's in his evolutions that Fletchling really shines. Upon evolving, his normal type is scrapped and replaced with fire type, which was really refreshing to see after so many boring early on flying Pokemon from the past. And not only is it cool that this bird evolution line is part fire type, but Talonflame is one of the most terrifying Pokemon to face in the OU tier. Its hidden ability, Gale Wings, is very unique, as it grants priority to all flying type moves. Priority Brave Bird, priority Roost. It's all fair game, and you, my friend, you gon' die. It also helps that Talonflame can learn Swords Dance, which really complements the rest of it. Use one of them. Oh, you got hurt? Priority Roost. Now Swords Dance again. Yep, Fletchling was not only better than expected, but also a severe threat. Number 3, Persian. Despite being Team Rocket's almighty leader's signature Pokemon, which is actually pretty badass by the way, Persian is not even slightly intimidating or powerful looking. So the question remains, is he powerful? Well, the simple answer is no, not anymore, but there was once a time where instead of being at the bottom of the food chain, Persian was the apex predator of Pokemon. This was due to a very broken exploit from Generation 1. You see, critical hits back then were determined by base speed, not pure chance. Basically, the faster you were, the better chance you had of landing a critical hit. Persian, with a base speed of 115, has approximately a 1 in 4 chance of landing a critical hit, but combine that with a high crit ratio move such as Slash and those odds become a whopping 99.6%. This allows our feline friend to use non-stop, same type attack bonus slashes without any repercussions, and that's pretty ridiculous. Number 2, Klefki. If you play Pokemon competitively, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When metagame players hear the jingle jangle of a Klefki rolling in, they either cower in fear or put their game face on, cause shit is about to get real. But why is that exactly? All that's apparent is that this thing is a freaking bundle of keys that doesn't evolve once. What's not apparent, however, is that Klefki has swagger. Sorry, I should probably elaborate. For starters, Klefki's nifty ability, Prankster, gives priority to all status moves. This causes moves such as Thunder Wave, Substitute, and Swagger to move first always. Since this is the case, Klefki can troll the opponent for days by both confusing and paralyzing them while substituting every so often as well. It should also go noted that Klefki's Foul Play and Swagger move go hand in hand. Foul Play does more damage the higher the opponent's attack is, and since Swagger raises their attack, well, you do the math. It's a keychain of death. Number 1, Magikarp. This here is the holy mother of subverted expectations. The potential that lies behind this derpfish is unimaginably awesome, but who's going to assume that as long as this is staring them straight in the eye? Our story begins in Pokemon Red and Blue, where a very mischievous salesman claimed to us that he was willing to sell a powerful Pokemon for just 500 Pokédollars. How could we refuse that bargain? Being the naive children that we were at the time, we accepted his trade, but were quickly disappointed. All this quote-unquote good Pokemon had was Splash, which does literally nothing. Oh joy! It was at this point that most of us felt pretty duped and neglected Magikarp for the rest of our journey. However, those youngins that were dedicated enough, patient enough, and determined enough to train him were greatly rewarded at level 20 of Magikarp's growth, for he would become Gyarados! Immediately, Gyarados made up for any struggle that Magikarp caused in the past. Game Freak had successfully fooled us not once, but twice with this Pokemon, which at the time, nobody was expecting. Also, similar to Metagross's case, Gyarados now has a Mega Evolution, making him even more awesome!